Hi everyone, so you've gotten your brushless motor spinning and you've learned how to use the joystick to do that. Now we need to focus on the servo motors. This is going to adjust the thrusters up and down so we can adjust our thrust to bring us up or down through the water. And this servo motor, we need to build a base for it so that we can safely play with it on our motor control board, just like our brushless motor. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically build a little box around this that goes up to that shoulder right there, and then we'll use those screw holes to just pop a couple screws in there and hold it in place. It's not a violent motor, so it won't really need very much, but let's just be safe anyway. Now as I design this, I'm going to make the width a little bit wider than the actual servo, and then the length, I'm going to make it as long as I possibly can before I hit those openings for the screw holes. Because I want to have a little extra space, I've got to get this wire to go like down inside of it and out a hole in the side. So I have to deal with this wire as well. This would be a build where, oh, and then one last thing, I'm going to build two little flanges, little wings out to the side, and then cut a hole in them so we can put screws through them in the base. So those are what we're going to be doing. This would be a really good one to do on your own if you've got some chops in Fusion so far. If you're still like, hey, I'm learning, stick with the video and I'll show you each step. All right, first thing I'm gonna do is create a sketch. I'm gonna place that sketch on the bottom plane down here. I'm gonna draw a rectangle. Actually, I'm gonna draw a centered rectangle because I wanna keep this whole thing centered on the plane. So I'm gonna click here in the center and drag out. I'm going to make this first one actually a construction line. What I want to do here is define the length and width of my servo. So the width of it is going to be 20.5, that's the opening, tab, and then the length of it is going to be 44. Is that true? Yes, 44. Enter. How I got these numbers is I did a bunch of trial and error. I measured it and thought I had something good, and then it didn't fit, so I changed it, and these are good numbers I think for these servos that work great. Now I'm going to do another center point rectangle, but this time I'm going to turn off the construction lines. I want real lines now, and you can see what I'm going to do here now is do the final width. So I want the 20.5 plus 2 millimeters on either side for the wall thickness here. And then I'm going to do 44 in the vertical direction. Oh, sorry, not 44, 48.5. Nope, that's not true either. I'm going to do, sorry, I need to measure this one. I'm going to do this distance across there, which I'm getting 54 something for, so let's just round that up to 56. So here I'm going to do 24.5, tab, 56, enter. This is my actual base now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit E for extrude, and I'm going to extrude this up 2 millimeters. And that'll be the base of what I'm going next. Now what I want to do is add those couple wings. So I'm going to create a sketch here on the face. I'm going to grab a rectangle. I'm going to start anywhere on the left-hand side, and I'm just going to drag it out. I'm going to say, let's say 10 millimeters out to the side, and then maybe 10 millimeters here. Now I want this right in the middle. This is where the screw is going to go in to hold it down. So I'm going to use my midpoint tool. I'm going to actually click on this little line of the rectangle and then click on the big line of the side, and now lock it in place. I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to do 10, tab 10, enter, midpoint tool. Click on the small line, click on the big line, everything's lined up. I'm going to hit E for extrude. I'm going to extrude these two as well. And here it thinks I want to go up, but I want to go down. So instead of using a positive number, I'm going to use a negative. So it's going to be -2, same as the other one. I want to make sure that it's set to join here because I want it all to be one piece, and then click OK. Now, I could have drawn the holes in here to start with, and that might have been easier. So when I make a mistake like that, I can go backwards in time in this really cool way. So look down here. These are all the things I've done. I created a sketch, so that little shape means sketch. I did an extrusion. I did a sketch, and then I did an extrusion. So I'm going to go back and right-click on this sketch and do Edit Sketch. Instead of leaving this, I'm going to first come back here and I'm going to drag a line, a construction line, across the middle. That'll help me find the center of that square, and one across this one as well. And I'm going to grab a small circle. I'm just going to do a 3mm hole, except I still have my construction line on. So I'm going to turn it off over here. And then I'm going to type in 3, enter, C for circle, go back to the middle, and then 3, enter. Those are my 2 screw holes. So I'm going to do finish sketch. It's going to go back and do the extrusion, but notice the holes weren't cut. And that's because I need to tell it I didn't want to extrude them. So I'm going to come over here to the extrusion and right click and edit feature. And I'm just going to say don't extrude those holes when you extrude the whole thing. And then click OK. And now I have those 2 screw holes. Awesome. Super fun. Now I'm going to create a sketch on here and make the housing for the actual servo motor. So I'm going to create a sketch right here. And I'm going to draw a rectangle because now I have these wings in here. I'm going to draw a rectangle over here around that. I'm going to use the offset tool. I'm going to click on this outside rectangle and I'm going to offset this. Well, maybe I don't want to do that actually. Now I'm going to do that way. One more rectangle. I'm going to draw it anywhere in the middle and then we're going to dimension it. So the dimensions, hold off on that. I'm going to undo that. It's going to make my life easier if I center this rectangle. So I'm going to grab a center point rectangle, put it right here in the center, and then drag out. And these dimensions are going to be the dimensions of the hole that we're going to leave behind. So 20.5 in the width, tab, and then 44 for the hole. Enter. And now we're going to hit E for extrude, and we're going to just extrude this outside piece. And we're going to extrude it from the base here up to there, which is 27 point something. Let's round it up to 28. So I'm going to click on the distance here and change that to 28 and hit enter. Wow, we're doing great. We're almost there already. Now we need to create the screw holes for our screws to go into. We don't want to be screwing into plastic. 3D plastic, it tends to shatter it or break it. So I'm going to create a sketch on this top face here. And I'm going to do another center point rectangle right here, except this one's going to be a construction rectangle. This is going to line up where the holes are. I've measured these and they are 10 millimeters apart sideways. And tab, they are 48.5 from center to center on the length. So these 4 corners are where the holes go. And we'll put in another 2 millimeter hole here. Excuse me. This hole's a little smaller than these holes because these holes, those screws can actually go through the plastic and into the wood. And these holes is where the screw is going to go into the plastic. So they need to be small enough so that the threads can grab onto that hole. So if I do a 3 millimeter hole, it's just the screw's going to fall right out. So I'm going to click here on the corner and I've got my construction lines on still. And do 2, enter. And I'm just going to do that 3 more times. 2, enter. I'm going to use C on the keyboard for circle. I'm going to do 2, enter, C, 2, enter. Awesome. I've got my 4 holes. Now I need to extrude these. So I'm going to hit E for extrude. And I'm just going to click on these 4 holes and then drag them down some distance down. Doesn't really matter how far. Looks great. Okay. So now I've got screw holes in here. And the last thing I need is to build in a notch here, a hole all the way through here to slide this into and go down. Now, because I can't get it to the bottom, I want to cut more than just a hole at the bottom. I want to cut a hole like a slot all the way up here. So I'm going to create a sketch on this face. And I don't want to cut a slot into the bottom piece that I had made. So what I'm going to do is come here, tip it so I can see that bottom piece, and then hit P for project. And then I'm going to click on this bottom face right here. I want to make sure I'm on specified entities instead of the entire body. If I do entire body, it draws the whole thing, all the sides for me. If I do entity, it'll only do the thing I click on, which is the bottom here. Boom. Okay. So now I know where the bottom is right there. And now I just need to measure this. So The hole that we need is about 7 millimeters wide and approximately, let's say 2 millimeters from the bottom. So again, I'm going to grab a rectangle tool. And in this case, actually escape, I'm going to actually grab, I'm going to grab a midpoint line first. I want to find the middle of this top line up here and drag a construction line down to the bottom there. That way I can line the rectangle up on that. And then I'm going to come grab a rectangle tool, do a center point rectangle. I don't want to put it on the center of this dashed line because then it'll be locked in place. I'm going to want to be able to mess around with it. So I'm going to come off somewhere and just draw any old rectangle. Oops, turn off my construction lines. I'm going to do it small because I'm going to mess with it next. All right, I'm going to dimension, hit D for dimension key, click on this line of the rectangle and this bottom line, and we want 2 millimeters there. And then, whoops, escape. Yeah, so if you're in a dimension or any tool, if you hit escape, you'll get out of that tool. So I'm going to hit D for dimensioning again. And I'm going to click on this top line and this one up here. And I'm trying to figure out what a good distance that would be. Maybe like 6 millimeters. Whoops, let me place it over here, sorry. 6 millimeters, enter. I'm not sure why I expanded it, that was super weird. Maybe that's too big a number. Let's just go 3 millimeters. That'll give us room to get that in, and for some reason it keeps blowing it up. And then the last thing I'm going to do is make the width, and we said that was going to be 7 millimeters wide. And that's our notch to cut it, that slot to cut it into. In fact, as I'm looking at it, I think I may be able to get it all the way to the top. So what I'm going to do then is take this down to just 1 millimeter. Yeah, that'll be fine. The screws will go down in this part, and I'll be able to get that wire in there really well. All right, so I'm going to hit Finish Sketch and E for Extrude, and then I'm just going to push it out the back wall. I don't like over extruding like this, so what I'm going to do actually is come here, change the distance here to to object, and I'm going to extrude it to this wall right there, and then click OK. That way it doesn't over extrude and accidentally cut something on the inside when I'm doing things. All right, so I think that looks good. There's our little box for our good friend, the servo motor. Last thing I'm going to do before I go to print this, I'm going to do some fillets. I'm going to round some stuff over, make it stronger and look better. So there, there, and there. So all around here, I'm going to fillet. And then these outside two edges as well. Weird that they're so sharp. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, grabbing all of these. Just the vertical ones, not the horizontal ones. Right there. Awesome. That took longer than I hoped it would. And then maybe I'm going to give just a little bit of ease over to these outside ones as well. And that last one. I'm going to come in maybe like 2 millimeters. Let's see what that looks like. Maybe that's a bit much. 1. Yeah, money. Enter. Awesome. So now I've got a much more professional looking, oh, I missed that one right there. Okay, so let's do one more round over. You guys probably noticed that. 1 millimeter, enter, good. Awesome. But now I've got a more professional looking and stronger part by having these roundovers. It makes any kind of sharp inside corners like that can make things a little bit weaker, especially on an outside piece like that. All right, so I think that's it. I think it's ready for printing. We can do a home view here. Be sure to save it. Next thing you're going to do is right click or open the bodies folder. I'm going to do this as servo mount. Double click on it and rename it as servo mount. Enter. When you right click on this, you can do save as mesh, and then you're going to send it. You guys can't do the send to 3D print utility. You're going to save this, open in Prusa, get a quick print, get it on your board. Let's do some servo motor stuff.